Welcome, everyone, to the Lighter Mind podcast. In the Lighter Mind, we explore spirituality, personal growth, trauma, recovery, and the path to wholeness. The Lighter Mind podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any forms of mental illness. We are not licensed therapists unless otherwise noted, and these are experiential conversations. Welcome back to another episode of the Lighter Mind podcast. My name is Kyle, and I got Mr. Allen and Mr. Crow here with me today. So we've been sitting here trying to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about today, and we started digging into something along the lines of mindfulness, being present in the moment, talking about goals. Allen, you brought up a good point. You were talking about if you are trying to be present and in the moment, that kind of contradicts the need to set a goal.
Right.
Okay. So what is your thought process around that?
Well, my thought process is, I get being in the moment because that's the only thing you have. But if you're kind of like delusional that there's no future and you don't have to worry about it, you get yourself into the shit show, right?
Yeah.
Like it just goes hand in hand to me. Like I look at the future, I don't worry about it because it's out of my hand, but I can set myself up for success in the future by being mindful of what I'm doing now, So I don't just sit there and say, well, whatever, it's going to be fine. Because I'm not going to leave my wife if I die suddenly in a world where she's fucked and loses her house, loses everything because she was just worried about the moment and living in that moment. So to me, you walk a tightrope. You say, okay, I need to be in the moment, but I need to be cognizant that there is a future. The past is the past. It's dead. But the future is alive because right now is the future from 2 minutes ago. So that future is always alive and it's there. And without being cognizant that like I look at my neighbor, Diane, 80 years old, $30,000 in debt, has to keep working. She works, she goes and cleans houses and then she watches dogs and drives some little alcoholic lady around to the bars. So, cause she can't stop working because she was not worried about, she had no thoughts of the future in her 50s when we moved in here, whenever, early 60s. So now every day she's out scrambling, trying to figure out how she's going to feed herself. So you do have to have some level of, there is a future or else you're fucked, unless you're fine with being fucked. If you want to be fucked, be fucked. No one cares. It's your life, right? So if you want to live under a bridge or beg for food on the corner, that's your choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I think that you go ahead, Kyle.
No. So I'm wondering how we find the balance between that then, between like being present and like experiencing what's happening right now and not getting caught up in future tripping or, setting too many expectations or all those kind of things, but also still planning ahead a little bit. Like where's the balance in that?
Well, for me, I don't worry about it constantly. I did. When I was younger, that's all I worried about was money. How am I going to survive when I get older? Right. And then I realized everything is energy, right? So whatever you give your energy to is going to come back to you. So that's when I was like, I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of, living paycheck to paycheck, freaking the fuck out all the time. Like, Crow's going through a car issue. I didn't have a car for 10 years almost. Rode my bike everywhere. Blizzards. And it wasn't far. It was like 6-7 miles each way. But if it was snowing, I'm riding in it, and then I finally saved up to buy this pickup for, $1,000, and it was great. And then I got a better job and was driving to, 40 miles each way in it. The clutch goes out. So then I'm like, how do I do that? So I had to figure out how to pay for a new clutch. Driving home that night, the engine blew. So I just put $1,500 into it. The engine blows up. So I sell it to some dude for $300 who puts a new engine in it. And then I rent a car from Rent-A-Wreck or whatever for like a month. And I'm like, this fucking sucks. I don't like, and I get it. We've talked about living in the shit or, being comfortable with the suck. Well, the suck sucks. I hate to tell you, the suck is not fun for anyone. If you think that being in the suck is fun, then you got to seriously rethink your life, right? So then you're like, okay, what do I do? But if I hadn't like planned a little bit for the future, which, then you kind of fuck yourself. You're like, okay, well, shit, and you got to play by the rules. I mean, and that's the sucky thing is like, you got to do this. Like when I went to buy the Jeep that Chris had, I'm like, man, my credit's terrible. I got to pay this Jeep. And it sucked. Like went to get a loan and like, well, you went bankrupt 3 years ago. You haven't really done anything since. So I'm like, so I learned from my past to not repeat the future. Right. So I don't have anxiety about it. I don't worry about it. Whatever comes. A comet could come and kill us today. I don't worry about that. But what I do worry about is leaving my wife in a position that she is not having to be 80 years old and cleaning up cat poop at somebody's house for $5 a day or whatever is going on, because it's not fun. I mean, it's not fun at my age. I went down and brewed. It was a hard day. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit again. I did manual labor for 26 years. No, I don't want to do that, So that's where I was like, all right, I got an okay brain and I can figure out what is going on in the world and how to capitalize that, right? So we went from having like no money 5 or 6 years ago to having a decent, well, it's all tied up, but decent amount, because I started thinking, what do people need? What in the world is going on? What is the future going to require for people to survive? So I'm like, well, we need this. We need, we need a source of minerals in the U.S. So I'm like, I'm going to invest in some, stock in companies that are going to get rare earth minerals in the U.S. So for me, it's not worry, it's not concern, it's just strategic, and it's not emotion. There's no emotional tie to this other than wanting my wife to not have a shitty life if I, mountain biking, flip over the handlebars, crush my skull and die, which happens, or hit a rock and hit your chest and I die. And then she's like, oh shit, what do I do? Right. So now I've got us in a position that if I died, she would be fine for the rest of her life if she kept working until she's 60 something. Right. So that's always my thinking is like, I don't worry about the future. I do a strategy. I have a goal. And I think, and it's Nietzsche said this, that's what life is: a point, a goal, and a line. Right. And my line was forever this real weird winding road, kind of pushed by whims or, fickles of fancy or whatever, and it didn't work. It didn't work for me. And, and I really think watching my neighbor lady is just like terrified me. Like, it's terrifying to think at 80 that you're working every day. She can't afford to have root canals done, so she's in constant pain with her teeth. She's like, I can't do my copay for my doctor, so her husband has to lend her the money because they have separate bank accounts, which I don't really understand. If you're married, you just have one and you work as a team, because two is definitely going to make the goal faster than one. So that's kind of where I was when you were saying that and I don't think it's worry. I don't think you need to worry about the future, but you need to be cognizant that it's there, Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I think of in the past is mistakes I made and not to repeat them. So I'm like, wow, I did that and it was really bad and it didn't work out so good for me. So when I start going down that path again, I will like remember viscerally how it made me feel, like going bankrupt, having debt collectors calling 20 times a day, just every time the phone would ring, having this feeling of dread because it was someone calling to collect debts that, I had signed up for. And, and it was a mess. And I'm like, I don't like messes. I don't mind occasionally being in the shit because it happened. Yesterday I hurt my back. It was freaking terrible. I was shoveling stuff, and all of a sudden, the whole night I was like, hot pad. This Phoebe buys this weird pain tincture from this hippie in California that comes in these little like hand label things, and like, what is this? She's like, oh, just try it. And I tried it. I'm like, oh, that actually works. It probably got heroin in it, but who knows? I doubt it. So, so to me, that's when you guys were talking about that. I'm like, well, and I'm usually, Chris is the woo woo one. Kyle, you're on your little thing. And I'm always the one like, I don't know about this conversation we're having. So,
Yeah.
and,
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair
Right.
because so a lot of what you're kind of talking about is there's like a level of like responsibility that we have, and
Right.
and sometimes we just kind of have to like show up and handle our shit. And I think that there's a disconnect that a lot of people have when they start to look at stuff in the future and then they attach either an expectation or they attach some type of story or an assumption or they do something like that, which is where the worry comes in. That's where the stress comes in. That's where the anxiety comes in, like all those kinds of things, which I think does contradict like that kind of being present in the moment, kind of being mindful of like, this is it. Like, this is all that that exists in this particular moment. And so there's a balance between the two things where we can, almost logically look into the future without attaching like that emotional outcome on like what this thing is actually going to be. And because I have the problem, and I know that, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who have the same problem of um, trying to predict the future, which
Right.
creates so many like cognitive errors and it creates so much discomfort and so much unease and like all these things. And like I have the tendency, and I have in the past, or yeah, I've definitely in the past, and this is probably due to like trauma or some shit, but I had that tendency of predicting conversations before they happened, and then trying to anticipate what that person's gonna say, and then what can I reply to that, so that like I'm like ready for fucking anything, but it's just like hyper vigilance, so it's probably 100% trauma, but it's but I as soon as I think is there is that balance between like there's a line between when we look into the past, because to really learn discernment, we have to look into the past a little bit. That doesn't mean that we ruminate in it. That doesn't mean that like we sit in the shit and sit and think about like, oh, how could I done this differently? How could and just kind of like play the tape over and over and over again. But if we want to learn how to really see the subtleties and the choices that we have in front of us, based off of past information, if we really want to know how to judge a situation appropriately, like we got to look back a little bit and like, okay, like this thing happened that was unfortunate. What did I learn from it? So but then there's a line between like when you cross that, then you start getting into like rumination and like all these other things. So there's a fine line, and we do the same thing in the future too. There's a difference between future tripping and setting a goal, and it's a very, very fine line, but I think as soon as we start to attach emotion to whatever that is, and then we start to step outside of the reality of what has happened, and then we start to create a story about what we think happened, or what other people's intentions are going to be, or what other people's intentions were in the past. When we start doing that, like that fucks with me so much. And I know I'm not alone in doing that, but as soon as it stops becoming logical and it starts dipping into like fantasy land, like bringing it back into like this is the here and now, like let's bring it back into my body, into my breath, like any of those kinds of things. But it's tough sometimes. It's tough.
Well, and I think, the if you worry about the future, you get anxious, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
And if you ruminate too much about the past, you can get depressed. So to me, it's just, and that thing where you anticipate conversations, I do that all the time. Like I'm always, especially um, ones that potentially could be conflict, right? Like if it's just a conversation, I don't worry about it. But if there's, tension or a problem, I try to like play it out in my head, and it's stupid because you can't predict what other people think or say, but I do the same thing. I try to be like, well, whatever, you know, um, a past experience led to this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe with that same person, like I had this conversation with this person that got tense, and this is what happened. I got to have another conversation with this person. It could get tense. So I'm going to anticipate it. But it just gives you anxiety and stress because
Mm-hmm.
you may find out that everything's cool, and
Mm-hmm.
I look at my friend Corey, who we, are good friends again, but we had a 25-year gap where we didn't talk. And the first time we met up again, I anticipated all this like, drama, and there was none. It was just like, fuck, I love you, man. I missed you. And I'm like, yeah, I missed you and love you. And it's great. Right. So, you got to look, again, you look at the past, you're like, mistake. The only thing I worry about is things that worked well in the past that are kind of like tried and true, and mistakes I made, but I don't dwell on it. I used to get the oogies thinking about the past all the time. Like I'd think about the fucked up shit I did and how I hurt people. And I would be like, oh, just like, I can't believe I did that. And now every night before I go to bed, I still ask for forgiveness from people in the past that I hurt. I'm like, every night I lay in bed and I'm like, I am sorry, universe, that I was a shithead and I hurt people. And I hope that they all have had beautiful lives since then. And that whatever I did to impact them didn't linger, right? Like they're not in the past thinking, God, that guy fucked my life up, which I don't think I didn't gonna murder anybody or anything horrible, but it was bad enough, right? So that's, I only look at the past as a learning experience. I don't dwell in it. I don't give a fuck. It's dead. But
Mm-hmm.
there are things that have happened, and there's things in the future that I can control. And that's really the key is like, if it's out of my control, I don't care. And, a lot of it isn't in anyone's control because anything can happen at any time to anyone completely out of the blue, right? But I try to always like anticipate things, right? Like, well, this could happen, you know? And what if this does happen? How do I deal with it? Right. So it's kind of like, to me, it's just like a roadmap of, okay, adverse situations. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Like one thing I'm really shitty about, and luckily in Colorado, um, is it's been like 5 years since I downloaded this software to make a will so I can leave what I want to leave to people if I die. Because I don't know. That's the only absolute in the future that we all know is we're going to fucking die. Everything on this planet, 5,000-year-old tree, bristlecone pine trees, eventually are going to die. Fruit flies, they live like 2 days, they die, or maybe a week, I don't know, 2 weeks. So that's the only given I have for the future. And to me, everything comes out of that circle. Like, okay, if I die, how is that going to affect the people around me,
Mm-hmm.
especially my wife? If I died before my 93-year-old mother, who's going to take care of her? She'll be fine because she's tough and is planned for her life, so she'll be fine. But it'll be challenging. And I look at my wife and I actually printed out this. I started on this thing like, now that I'm gone sheet for my wife. Like, this is all the stuff. This is the passwords. These are the bank accounts. These are the investment accounts. This is the Netflix password, like every possible thing. Like, here is how your coffee maker works because set it up every day for her, like everything. So when I'm dead, she just looks at this sheet of paper and says, wow, my husband thought about the future and made it so that my future and present don't suck. Right. Does that make sense? So
Oh, of
the
course.
future to me is
Mm-hmm.
nothing really to be anxious about. It used to always be, I was stressed about the future every day. I'd just be in like panic mode constantly inside, like worrying about what could happen. And then I've kind of winnowed away like improbable things, and I've worked towards making things that are going to happen, like dying, less of making the effect less on the people that I feel in charge for. As a man, an old fashioned man as far as standards go, I want to provide. I want to be a provider for my wife. I don't want to be some like, limp wristed freaking soy drinking weirdo, right? I want to go out there. If I got to go and kill some animals because the shit hits the fan for my wife, I want to be able to do it. I want to be like, oh, well, where would we find the soybeans to make the soy milk? It's not in my wheelhouse, right? So that's kind of, I think the whole conversation is very, very interesting, and we kind of excluded Crow here. He's just sitting there laughing at us.
I'm
just taking Crow, you had something to say before I hit play. You had a thought. Do you still have the thought, or is that long gone?
Oh, that's long gone.
Yeah, okay.
But it was, and what I'm drawing from all of this that's really good is what I'm hearing is the balance. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be the ability to give up the need for control. And that's the difficult balance, I think, for most people. And for a lot of us, is because we do need to have the burning desire that's free of intent. The Neville Goddard piece, and I truly believe in that. There's a vision. There is a desired outcome, but how I'll get there, I cannot plan moment to moment, A to B to Z, because then I'm going to be this is me. I'm going to be too, not in the moment. I'm going to be too wrapped up in my head about future tripping and planning too much. So it's this ability, and I think everybody has a different way. I mean, we're all different human beings, and we're designed differently. To have that burning desire that's free of intent, and the relinquishing of the giving up control, the need for control, not control, but the need for it. And at the top, before we got rolling, what did I say? Oh, I said that standards are more important than goals. That was, I think, what kicked this off. And I think that a lot of people lean too heavy into the goal without having the smallest standards, so they're jumping ahead too far, planning too much, and thus, by doing so, not allowing the universe, and this is where I'm going to go woo, allowing the universe to give you what you couldn't even imagined for, because I've got too much of a tight grip on exactly how things are going to work. And so there's the balance. There's striking that balance. And I like what both of you are saying. And
would you say, Crow, that as soon as you attach your well-being to the outcome of a situation is when we get problems? So as soon as you start attaching, as soon as you start, I don't know. I mean, it's an expectation, but there's some form of like attachment, that we that like causes like problems for us in the, especially like, and it's linked into that expectations and those control and stuff like that. But I think that as soon as we attach a thought or an emotion or something to like, this is going to be the outcome, this is how it's going to make me feel, all of these kinds of things, then it's like we're immediately trying to control like what that is going to be, which inevitably, as expectations tend to do, disappoint us, when it doesn't actually plan out the way that we want it to.
Yeah, that's a great point. And are you saying that's where you're coming from, Kyle? Because I would agree with that. I totally would agree with that.
Yeah, as you were talking, like I just kept thinking about that word, like attachment, and like because like you and I talked a long time ago about like healthy detachment, and like the ability to, and I think as my journey has gone on, I'm starting to like really understand what healthy detachment actually is, and it kind of plays into like the subtle art of not giving a fuck, but like really goes like a little bit deeper into like really paying attention to where we're putting our energy, and we're putting, and then not even our energy, but like our emotions and our thoughts, and like the expectations and the need to control, and like all these kinds of things that we've talked on here a lot about. But I think that that healthy detachment piece, like, like we were talking about, what was it last week when we were talking about like when you have a thought that comes into your head, and not over identifying with that thought and then treating it like a cloud and just being like, okay, it's a cloud, it can go now. Or like as a, you see, if you were sitting down by a creek and you see like leaves going down the stream, just like, it's like, those are our thoughts, just like, let it keep going, down the stream. But as soon as we have the tendency as humans to create safety for ourselves, and like if we're using the metaphor of sitting down, sitting by a creek and watching leaves go down, we have the tendency to jump headfirst into the creek and grab a fucking leaf out of there, and then hold on to it and attach some type of meaning, which creates so much suffering for us, instead of just like, kind of fucking hands off and like being open to like what the universe can actually provide for us, So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting what you just said and how you said it, because you said it we're something about to the effect of safety, and we're looking for what the situation, planning, or in the present moment of what is safety. And so it's like we're scanning the environment for what is safety in terms of a thought. Well, for a lot of us, unbeknownst to us, I think a lot of those safety thoughts can be fucked up, and they don't work, and they're not good, but we're on guard to disidentify them and detach from them. But the the ability to be able to say that's an unhealthy thought and to push that away, and I'm challenging it in the moment as to why it came up in the first place. Right? So it's if a lot of us are living in doubt, fear, shame, guilt, whatever, then for a lot of us, if you're not aware, that may be your emotional home. And so it does register as safety to the nervous system. But to be able to stand back and say, that's coming up, and now I'm aware that that's the predominant thought of doubt, fear, excessive overthinking, then then you can challenge it in the moment. You have a greater capacity to challenge it in the moment and stop it. So it's it's seeing those thoughts for what they are.
Yeah, that goes back to what you were talking about, is looking at your thoughts as opposed to looking through your thoughts. It's the same. It's just not over identifying with like what that, that phenomena, kind of is, but we have that tendency, people, as humans, to over identify with what the story is, and to think that that story is our reality. And like, this is who we are. And we do the same thing when we look at the past, like we talked about shame on here before, and like the way that we, I think shame is something that we are that is taught to us. It is not something that we were born with, but it's a story that like people have, we've kind of colluded with the people around us growing up to create this story and this narrative about who we are. And then we attach, like that, everything, our personality, like our mannerisms, like our beliefs, like our biases, all these kinds of things to try to fit the mold of who we think we are, and not like stepping back and objectively looking at like, is this actually me, or am I attaching too much meaning to like what this story is about who I am? Like, yeah.
Well, do you think part of that is your story is you're concerned about what other people think of you?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like, and that's where the I don't give a fuck kind of thing comes in for me. Like, I'll talk to anyone about anything, and I don't care. They can think whatever they want about me. If they think, wow, that guy's fucking weird, or I don't care. You know, I don't need anyone's validation for what I do. I've been through, you know, I've dragged myself through the shit because of I had dreams and goals. And when I opened my brewery, I was going to be the next Anheuser-Busch. I was sure of it. Man, I was already shopping for Lamborghinis the day we opened. Little did I know that 3 years later, I would have no utilities because I hadn't paid them in 2 years. I would be shitting in a bucket in the basement and burying it in the backyard because there was no water running in the house, right?
Yep.
And
shit happens.
Yeah. So, and you were talking about, so that's that's where I think the future goal kind of thing can trip people up because they think that just because they did it, made this leap, they're going to be successful. And, the universe had to hand me a good whooping. And I resigned myself once it started failing to failure. And instead of redoubling my efforts to make it succeed, I just gave up and sat there for 2 years and watched this business flounder and me go bankrupt and lose everything I had, basically. So yeah, it's a tightrope walk, right? Like, between your goals, the future, the past, the present is a tightrope walk where you're like, all right, I got to stay on track. I got to be here, because if you're tightrope walking and you're not in that moment, you're going to fall, right? And you're either going to fall into the future, which is anxiety, and we'll say you're going to fall into the past, which is going to kill you because you're going to dwell in it and just be a depressed shithead and shoot yourself or whatever you end up doing because you can't freaking get out of the past. So you're on that line, and but again, you've got to be aware because the future is the next step on the tightrope walk, right? When you're standing there with your little thing getting all balanced and the winds are whipping around, it's like that dude that did it between the Twin Towers back, in the 70s or whatever. The wind's howling. You can see him, and he doesn't have any safety stuff. He's going to fall 15,000 feet to his death, right? So, but he's in that moment, right? But the moment also has to anticipate the future. Like, you have to be aware that the wind might change direction or might pick up, or your foot might not get that rope just right. So that's, to me, the essence of thinking about the future. It's not, like when we were in a band as kids, we're going to be the next Beatles. Sure we are. Well, what did we do to do it? We didn't, right? We didn't live in a van, go on tour, write our own music from the start. By the time we got around to that, everyone was kind of set in this rut. The excitement was kind of gone by the time it got to the point of doing the stuff we should have been doing at the start. So we kind of self-sabotaged. We didn't think about the future. Like, we didn't say, hey, the Beatles became successful because they wrote their own songs and had this thing. They didn't get, when they were in Hamburg 2 years, 3 years before they became famous, they didn't get famous playing cover band songs in a bar, which is what they were doing, which is what we were doing, right? So thinking about the future, you're not being anxious about it, but having some cognizant thoughts about a path towards a goal, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think if you anticipate the outcome, that it's going to be successful and I don't have to worry about it, it probably isn't going to happen. Like I'm not going to say, I've been saying I have this screenplay in my head 25 years. It's freaking, well, David Lynch is dead. So now I don't have someone to direct it. Cause it's very, that his kind of genre, but, and I'm like, it's still in my head. 25 years ago, I'm like, I'm going to write this thing down. This is so freaking crazy. And it was based on the hero's journey, but it's very surreal. And I didn't really know the hero's journey then. I just had this idea about this thing, right? But have I done it? No, I haven't done it. And I don't worry about it. Whatever. If it happens, it happens. I don't care. It's not, but if I said, well, I'm going to write this screenplay and become a famous, writer and make all these movies and fly around in a jet, well, I'd be depressed about it now because I didn't do that. But it didn't have enough value, apparently, or whatever it is, for me to carry on with this. So I found other things that are interesting, but I have zero expectations of anything anymore, like zero. And I've said this a million times. I used to tell the guys that work for me, the key to happiness in my world is having zero expectations of anything outside of me. Like, I can't control anything. I have no expectations of anyone to do anything. And it goes to that no one's coming to rescue thing, right? You've got to figure out your shit, get going, and again, plan a little bit. It's not, I think that sometimes the live in the moment crowd gets a little too, like, who cares? And about the future, right? Like, no, it's fine. And I always say everything's energy. What you put out comes back, right? You got to vibrate at a high level. You got to do this. But if it doesn't, like, so, and that maybe is because your energy isn't aligned, and you like, well, I think I'm on the right track. I think my energy is good, but if it's not coming back to you, then maybe you need to, tinker with it a little bit, right? Like, okay, what am I doing wrong? So again, expectations of the future are probably a terrible thing. Planning or goals. And like I said earlier, I don't spend much time on it. Maybe hour a week. I'm like, all right, what do I got to do here? What do I have to fine tune to make sure that I'm going to be okay? My wife's going to be okay. We keep a roof over our head, blah, 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 blah. All the freaking mundane shit in life that sucks. It sucks to have to think about living this way because this is the way society is, right? But you can't change. You're not changing it. No one's changing it. It's, all these people that, rail against whatever's going on thousands of miles away. And you sent me the thing, like, do something in your community to make it better. Who cares what's going on? And I don't care about any of it, man. It doesn't affect me. I'm trying to completely unplug from what's going on in the world, because all it is a big psyop to get you anxious about the future and worry and blah, 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 that, we're all going to die. We got to go bomb the fuck out of somebody because they're an existential threat. No, they're not. No one's an the only person existential threat to you generally is yourself, because you're a dumb fuck and you're worrying about shit you can't control. Right. I mean, you could get murdered. You could walk into the grocery store and some asshole freaking shanks you. Right. Or whatever. You're on a subway and somebody decides they're going to stab you to death because you're not like them. Whatever. That's fucked up shit. Stupid. Right. So, but you can't, if you were always worried about the future and potential things, you would be catatonic. You would be, just I used to have a friend that would just worried so much about stuff that he would just lay in his bed in the fetal position. We'd have to go find him. And, his last name was Finkelman, and we used to call him Fetalman because he was just always in the fetal position, just, stressed about the future. And I'm like, dude, that's like the ultimate living in the moment. You're so scared of the future that you're just going to lay there and cry all day. Right. Sort of, so again, tightrope, you're on the tightrope. He was so worried about the future. He was just clinging to the rope. He wasn't going to move anywhere. He wasn't going to get up on top of that rope and start to cross it or go back and say, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for this. adventure, the call to adventure, which is the tightrope, right? So we can
Mhm.
spin all these ideas of the hero's journey, worrying about the future, ruminating in the past, all into like an overarching metacognitive. It's because you're looking theoretically at this from
Mhm.
afar. We're looking at it from 1,000 feet instead of being in it, right? So we're, I mean, it kind of sucks that we have brains. Like if we didn't have brains, it would be a lot easier. We'd be like my dogs, happy as shit all the time. They're fed, they play,
Mhm.
they shit, they pee, they sleep, and that's it. And they're happy. Like I look at them, I'm like, man, dogs got it good. At least my dogs. I don't know everybody's dogs. So that's kind of my take on this whole thing. Is the future is it's that Clash thing. The future is unwritten. It is unwritten, right? And if you're not
Mhm.
willing to write it, someone else is going to write it for you, right?
Bam, there you go.
Mm.
Love it.
So yeah,
Yeah. So I
Yes.
for any of the listeners, I stop fucking thinking so much. I think that's the real key to happiness. Go. I mean, looking at the, um, as you were talking, Alan, there was a picture that I saw a long time ago. It was a drawing, and it was a dog sitting next to his owner, like looking out like some mountains or the ocean or whatever the fuck it was, and it said that like the difference between like being happy and not being happy, or yeah, I don't know what it was, but there was a little bubble that came out of like the person's head, and it had like a picture of a house, it had a picture of money, it had a picture of an airplane, it had like, just like all these thoughts that were going on. And then there was a bubble that came out of the dog's head, and it was just the mountains. And I think that that's the difference. Like as soon as we start thinking, like, and I'm really really starting to like, actually, like McCrae's really got me on this shit. I'm just like really not thinking so much, and just not, and like really noticing that like when those thoughts come up, whether it's in the past or it's in the future, or it's even like my perceptions about the future or about the present and all the, like as soon as I start, my brain turns on, and I start thinking that I know the fucking answer to something, I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Like it's like I had a buddy a long time ago, and I think I've said this on here before, but like as soon as you think you know shit about shit, you don't know shit about shit. And that's what I'm trying to lean into, but like take it from a different angle of like, stop trying to control and put expectations, and stop creating problems where there are none, and stop trying to constantly like anticipate threats around you, and like stop thinking so much. Like just
Right.
stop thinking so much, and I think that as soon as I as soon I think I think that is when I start reminding myself of that, I'm better. All the problems that I thought I had are fucking gone. Any of like any of the anxiety or any of the depression or the loneliness or the stress or any of this it's just in my head, it's in my imagination. And so for anyone who is really listening to this, like one of the easiest ways that like I try to teach people is bring it back to the breath, bring it back to your body, bring it back. Like Alan, you brought up something a long time ago when you were working with the kids about pay attention to the bottom of your feet.
Right.
Do you remember that? But just something to like bring you back into this body that that you're in right now, in the experience that you're having. Like when you're washing the dishes, pay attention to like what do the soap suds look like, and what does it feel like to have the sponge in your hand, and when you're eating, like what is the texture of what you're just like really bringing it back into like, this is what I'm experiencing right now because this is all that we have right now. But like any little thing that you have to do to stop thinking. And like your life, like my life, or I would say that over the last probably 2 months, I've really been trying to lean into that. And I'm a lot happier because of it. Like I have less problems because I'm not creating problems. Like life is good right now. And I'm just like fucking grateful that like, okay, life is good right now. And like when there inevitably is a challenge, like I'll just fucking handle it when it gets there, as opposed to trying to anticipate that there's going to be a problem. I know there's going to be because that's the duality of life. But like, there's like, I'm wasting my energy and I'm making myself suffer twice by trying to anticipate a problem and then also having to deal with that problem when it comes up. It's like, it's just so much easier just to like, just kind of lean back into the moment and then fuck, all right, we have a challenge right now. Like, let's navigate through this, but it's hard to do. It's hard to do, especially if you are pre-programmed to think too much, like over like the, like one of the, I think it being intelligent, as all humans are, I think that it's a blessing and it's a curse because we have that ability to overthink, and that creates problems for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I think, we were discussing like the washing the dishes. I think we're saying I think a lot, but that's fine.
I know.
The mundane things in life, because most of it's pretty mundane, right? You get up, take a shit, brush your teeth, wash dishes, mow the lawn. All this stuff gives you all kinds of time to occupy your brain with thoughts of the past or the future, because the moment you're in doesn't seem exciting or doesn't give you a dopamine hit or whatever. So to me, it does help. Like, and I think I talked about this, like Iggy Pop, how he loved to vacuum because it let him shut off his brain, the sound and the motion, right? And I read that like 25 years ago, and it really resonated with me because I do too. I mean, I love to just,
it's
shuts everything off. That noise is kind of like, like a white noise thing. So it kind of is loud enough that your thoughts don't come in. So, I think this is part of the problem with the modern world is everything. We don't have that many challenges, right? So we make challenges. Like we got, and people, especially in America, don't realize how wealthy we are. I was just watching a thing about a guy who moved here from England, and he was like just shocked how even poor people here seem to be, better off than most people that where he came from. So I think we get this level of comfort, and then we worry about the future because it gives us something to do, So being in that moment is great. Like when I'm washing dishes, like I'll be like, oh, you feel the soap on my hands, feel how warm water feels, or the bottom of the feet. Like as soon as you said that, I started like, oh, my little feet are tingling right now. And, and then my toes are a little cold because the basement's not terribly warm that we're in. But yeah, so I think, I think that, again, it's the modern world is set up to make it, and I don't think it's by design. Maybe it is by design to make us anxious, and then they're like, oh, well, here, use your Instagram and it'll give you some happiness because you'll see all the fun stuff that you could be doing or whatever, So I think, the reality is that life can be kind of banal and boring, right? Like I think most people are bored and they see what other people have and are jealous of that, right? Like especially if you go on social media, and I love the ones like I saw one yesterday. It was like picture of the beach with a couple tan knees, and they're like, "Yeah, life's good on the beach." And it turns out it's a picture of a computer screen of a beach with two hot dogs lined up that were color of tanned legs, and I'm like, huh, yeah, that's the thing. Like everything is just this weird illusion. Like I don't, and my new thing is I don't know. People ask me questions, especially like I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what reality is. I don't know what your reality is. I don't know either of your guys' realities. I don't know my wife's reality. I don't even know if any of this is even close to real. I don't know. And people ask me questions about things. I don't know. I used to always have the answer. Well, this and that and this and that, And when I did have the answer, and especially if I was wrong, it caused anxiety or guilt that I gave someone the wrong advice, So I can give you advice based on things I've learned, like when I talk about shitting in the bucket and opening a business, thinking I'd be successful without putting in the effort, and you can't, like, anyone would never open a business if you never thought about the future, right? You have to think about the future to do anything really, right? Like, I mean, you can be in the moment and it's going to be banal. It could be banal because it's just this. I'm just doing the same fucking thing every day. It's like Groundhog Day, Um, and this is just the same thing every day. My life sucks. Or you can be comfortable with it, like Crow is with his job. He loves it. But you've had moments where you're like, this fucking sucks.
Oh yeah, but
Um,
that's how you know it's your dream life.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you know it's your dream life, and that's how you know that it's your dream career and it's your bliss, because you're also looking back going, yeah, this was what I asked for years ago, and this is what I'm getting. This is a down moment of it, but at the same time, as I look backwards, I go, where I'm at now is what I dreamed of. And parts of it suck, but parts of it are, most of it, 98% of it right now is bliss in my life, because it's absolute. In my head, the people, the places, the things that used to take up rent are now gone. And maybe that goes to the Jung quote of, some problems in life we never understand, we just outgrow. We'll never solve. We'll just have to outgrow them. And I think I'm getting, and have gotten to a point now where I'm starting to recognize this is the dream life I asked for. With its ups, its downs, its inadequacies, but it's abundance at the same time. And overall, it is taking an assessment that it's been a tightrope. It is always a tightrope. It would be a tightrope if I was a fucking trillionaire and had yachts parked in every harbor all over the world. It's the same with if I was flat broke and living on the streets. It's a tightrope, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, it is finding your bliss. And can you sit in that moment and say, I'm neither abundant nor is there scarcity in the world? There's both. But I'm not living by both. I'm not going to live in an abundance, absolute abundance. Well, I actually do believe that you can live in that mindset. But to understand that there is a scarcity mindset that is engineered in us in our culture, has been since day one.
Well, I think it's more than our culture. I mean, I think it's worldwide.
It's worldwide, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
and if there's scarcity, well, then everybody's scrambling and everybody's anxious,
right,
and everybody's in a constant state of fear, anxiety, depression, and disconnect, because then I'm fighting everybody for what little scrap I can get.
Yeah. Well, I remember other Chris years ago told me I had a scarcity mindset, and I really flipped that script for myself because I realized
I told you that?
No, other Chris.
Oh, other Chris. I was going to say
Chris in Spain.
Okay.
So, yeah, and he was like, you got to stop having a scarcity mindset. And really, when that happened is when things changed, and I started realizing that it's all there. And my wife was always, the breadwinner in our relationship. And she's always like, and she's the one that told me it's energy. This is all
it's
just
energy.
right?
It's energy.
Money is energy, right? Like it flows to her. It's great. It doesn't flow
That's
to me.
because she's awesome.
Yeah, right. So,
And she's high
and
energy.
being a trillionaire, I mean, look at all the billionaires that kill themselves. You get more worries. There's a sweet spot. Like, I think seriously, financially, there's a sweet spot where you don't have money worries because you've got enough that you're going to be okay. If anything blindsides you, it might be like if you got some horrible disease and your insurance company denied you, it could bankrupt you. That would suck, right? But odds are that's not going to happen. But having too little money is stressful because then you're like, fuck, what do I do? Because I've been there. I was there for a lot of years. I mean, fuck. From when was it? Probably 10 or 12 years that I seriously had no money. Like, I would go to Wendy's and eat packs of mayonnaise because I didn't have money to buy Wendy's, but I could go in, take a leak, grab a bunch of mayonnaise out of their little squeeze packs, go in the parking lot on my bicycle, eat the mayonnaise, and that would give me enough energy to get through the rest of the day. So, that was, and if it wasn't for my parents owning a house that let me live in, I would have been on the streets. I wouldn't have known. I would have couch surfed, but eventually it would have just gotten really bad. So I was lucky enough to go through that really shitty thing with some family safety net, and I'm sure if things had gotten bad enough, my brother, who's, very successful financially, would have been like, dude, let me just help you out and get you back on your feet. You're my brother, right? I can't just whatever. So, but then you look at guys who have a lot of money, like my brother, and he's always worried about the money, even though he's got more than he'll ever be able to spend in his entire life. He's got no worries, but he worries. And I think part of it is we grew up so poor, but I think it also is you worked really hard to make that. Like he wasn't handed any of this. He worked hard to make it, and he knows how easy it can go away, So again, tightrope, like I'm okay. Everything is going to be fine, but I need to be cognizant that this and this and this need to be in place, or I'm going to fall off the tightrope onto the other side and be like, fuck, I should have done some stuff differently so that this wasn't the outcome. Does that make sense? Like, so yeah, I mean, but it's just living. It's life. I don't know the answer. I know the answers that are I know what's been working for me. And it took me until 5 years ago, really, to have stuff start working right. Like 10 years ago, it was, tons of debt, tons of this, tons of that. And then it was like, we got to do something different because this isn't working. We can keep going this way. We can stay on this path and be worried about paying bills. Cause I'm like, we don't have enough money right now to pay our bills, and I'm like, this sucks. This sucks. So how do we change? What do we change? And basically for us, it was doing a Dave Ramsey thing where we like read his book, realized how to snowball our debts down to nothing, and then just get off the wheel. It was just on the freaking wheel that they've set up this debt, like, oh yeah, here, take this, and I'm like, oh, like when we had to put a new roof on the house, we had to take a loan to pay for the roof on the house. And I'm like, well, this sucks. I shouldn't have to do this. If I own a house, I should have enough resources to fix things in the house, either to skill myself and get up there and roof that thing for nothing, for cost or whatever. So it just kind of flipped mentally for me that this is not the life I want. Although it was a good life. I had a great career. I loved going to work every day until the very end. And it could have gone on, and then the back injury happened, which kind of really stopped that, which was probably the universe saying, fuck, you got more to give than just making beer and that's it, right? Riding your bike, hanging out, whatever, drinking. So, I look at that and I'm like, okay, so how do we get to where we want to be without anxiety, without stress, without worry, but with a plan? And when you plan, I think you have a much less chance of having anxiety about the future. Like where do, you and your wife, Kyle, could be like, where do we want to be in 5 years? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get there? And we've sacrificed a lot, like we don't do shit. We don't do shit. We garden and we hang out with the dogs. But I'm like, and now we've got the money to do whatever we want to do, really. I mean, I'm not going to go buy a Learjet. That's never going to happen. And I don't care because it doesn't hold any appeal to me. I don't even like flying anymore because of the security theater. I'm like, no, I don't want to get on an airplane because I don't want to have to go. And thank God you don't have to take off your shoes anymore. But they're not doing anything. They're making you think you're safe, but they're whatever. It's just a freaking waste of my time. I don't need to stand in a line at an airport for fucking 5 hours or whatever is going on right now to go fly to Jamaica to sit on the beach and drink Red Stripe. Yeah, fuck that. I don't have no desire whatsoever, right? But that, Kyle, you just got crazy looking. That to me is really the key. Was like we had a goal. What are we willing to sacrifice for this goal for a longer term, like not worrying, like not being my neighbor in 20 years, like I don't want to be, just worried and complaining constantly how much my life sucks because I didn't think about it, or have some level of awareness of the future. You don't have to think about it. You just have to be aware that it's there because it's there. We've been doing this for a little over an hour. That we've gone into the future. We're going into the future now. Future, so that's kind of my mentality on it. And whatever. I've got an opinion. Who cares what it is but me? Some people might like, oh, that's interesting. And other people are like, you're a fucking moron. I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm the dumbest dude in the room or in the world or in this neighborhood. I don't know, but I don't care because I'm just kind of following what I want to do, be blissful as much as humanly possible, not worry about shit I can't control, just kind of live. All right.
It's working for you.
It is working. It's
right
good.
on.
Right.
That's so, yeah. This is good. This is good.
Right. So
this is good.
Can you see Kyle on yours, or is he just a pixelated weird thing?
Yeah, I can see him great.
Right now? What's going on mine?
Of course, you gave me the new screen too.
Yeah, you got the better computer.
I got the good screen. You handed me the new model. I got everybody great.
I'll send you a picture, Kyle, real quick because it's very.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's recording fine, but
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you look like. Oh, now you're back. So,
well,
all right. So I want to tell you guys a story because this is the weirdest shit that happened this week, and I don't even know what to think about it. So you know how our bedroom has red light, so it's red. I'm drawing the blinds. It's been warm here, so the window's open, and I look out, and up by the golf course around the bend, I see this human walking who's probably like 7 feet tall, completely gray head to toe. Long fucking arms, long legs, walking really fucking weird, like not human kind of stride. So I'm just like, what the fuck is that? And then I'm like, well, I'll see when it comes around the bend, right? So it comes around the bend, starts walking down the street. I can't see it, but then I catch one glimpse of it 2 doors up from us, but it's kind of blocked by a tree, and then it just vanishes, like fucking gone.
Was it a shadow?
They're coming for you.
No. So then I'm telling my Apache neighbor about it, and he goes, "You saw a fucking skinwalker." And I'm like, "What?" So you're not supposed to talk about him, even according to him, because then if you talk about him, they know you're aware of him, and they're going to come after your ass. But it was the weirdest. And I told Phoebe about it right before I went to bed, which was a terrible idea because then she was like, oh, my God, no, shit. Why did you tell me that? No, I'm not. And neither of us fucking slept. Seriously. Like, neither of us slept that night because it was so fucking weird. And then I'm like, they're telling me it's a skinwalker. And I'm like, well, no, I don't know. Maybe he crossed the street in a weird way and the tree blocked his path the whole way back. And I did see something move between 2 houses right after that, but I don't know what it was. But yeah, so this is like, I don't know. Again, what was it? I don't know. Was it human?
Wow.
It was human-esque, but it was very tall, and it was one color head to toe. And disappeared.
Well
Yeah.
then.
So
That is wild.
anyhow, I just completely destroyed our whole conversation for people that have listened to this because they're going to discount everything because Alan's a crazy person who saw a skin fucking walker, right?
Dude,
So,
I don't know, man. I mean, I think that I mean, I'm a recovering meth addict, man. So, and I mean, I used to see some strange fucking shit, man.
Well,
I
that's
can't
the
tell
funny
you whether or not it was true.
yeah, that's the funny
Like-
thing is I was telling some people about it this weekend, and I was like, you know, I hadn't had any substances other than water all day and food. You know, it wasn't like I'm like, whoa, I ate some mushrooms and holy shit. It was just, you know, like, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that was our neighbor walking around in a sweatsuit, you know, but fucking weird as
Yeah.
all get out, man. I was just like,
yeah.
and then I Google the word that you're not supposed to say, and I'm like, that's exactly what it looked like, you know. And I'm like, So, but yeah, I
Damn.
went out with the flashlight, really bright, like light up the whole neighborhood flashlight, looking all around for this thing, nothing. So,
Ooh.
surreal.
Wow.
It was very weird.
Wow.
So there you go.
That is weird. That is
funny.
weird.
But
Damn.
yeah, crazy stuff. So Chris is taking a bathroom break. Usually we would pause for these kind of things, like other
but we just
podcasts
let it
do.
roll. It's our podcast. We can do what the
Yeah,
fuck
we
we
can
want.
do.
with
We
it.
don't need to
That's
be
all
like
right.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Going,
Yeah.
I gotta take a pee break.
Yeah.
So,
Doesn't matter.
so how you been, Kyle? Life's good.
Yeah, I would say that life is pretty good right now. Yeah, I mean, wife and I just got back from a little vacation, little break from reality. Well, not even like a break, but just I like doing fun shit. Yeah, work's going well and life's really good. Looking at getting into a new house, so
Nice.
yeah, so things are going well right now.
Good.
Things are going
You guys
well.
upgrading? Bigger house or what?
So we're in an apartment right now, and we sold our house out in Colorado, and so I think we're gonna buy one out here. So we're thinking about
Good
it.
for you.
We're thinking about it. So,
Yeah.
setting that goal, a little
Yeah.
bit of a goal, but then not being attached to the outcome. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that'll be a fun thing. So.
Well, and that was the key when we bought this house. I mean, we looked at like 50 houses, and I just had no attachment whatsoever to anything, you know. And when we pulled up to our house, I'm like, I don't think so. And then I walked in, I'm like, it's pretty nice. And then I saw the backyard,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, even better. So, but during the whole negotiation on the house, there was, and I did this every time I bought a car. Is I'll just walk away. I don't care. I don't have a vested interest in, and I think we paid way less than they asked, and I just kept, and finally I got to the point because I kept just going with a lower and lower offer. And Phoebe finally was like attached to the concept of this house, and we were in the negotiations, and I'm like, I'm going to even lowball them more, And she's like, if we lose this house because you were such a cheap motherfucker, she's like, I'm going to be so pissed. So at that point I said, all right, I've talked them down a huge amount. It was like 30% under what they were asking. So I was like, okay, we're good. We'll buy it for this price that is way under what they were asking. So, and that's the key to anything is just not that attachment. Like if you're attached to things, and that's my neighbor, the crazy neighbor, everything. And my wife's father and brother, they're all hoarders, right? And that's an attachment thing. Like my mother-in-law bought my Phoebe's uncle a new suitcase. He's been going to England to see some singer that he really likes. But his suitcase was like broken. The wheels were broken off of it, and he's old. He's like 75 years old, and he's trying to carry this heavy suitcase with no wheels on it. So she bought him a new suitcase, right? Thinking he would throw the old one away. But no, he just put it where the front door is. So the front door doesn't even open all the way, and it's full of his stuff that he's hoarding, right? And my neighbor's a hoarder. And my mother-in-law was telling me how she had talked to like a therapist about hoarding, and he said that's the hardest mental illness to treat. Because everything has this like sentimental attachment. Like if you go in my backyard, right on the other side of the fence, there's a giant tarp covered pile of shit. It's shit. It's like a church bench from the church that Diane went to as a child, right? And it's all rotten because you can't store wood outside, even under a tarp. Everything under this tarp, chairs from her parents' dining room table when she was a kid, every piece of clothes she's ever owned in her whole life, she still has. All of her mom and dad's clothes. Mom's been dead for 10 years. Dad's been dead for 25 years. Every piece of clothes that they had at their time of death, she has in their house because they all have sentimental value. She sold her house back east for nothing. Sent everything back, cost her thousands of dollars because her husband was keeping track of how much each package was. He showed me this thing, $23. Inside of it was a pink straw hat from her childhood that cost $23 to ship back from Pennsylvania. Throw it in the fucking trash. Give it to Goodwill. Do something. No one cares. No one cares about any of this stuff. And when you die, who's going to deal with this? There's 10 truckloads, like semi-truckloads of garbage, in my mind, sentimental garbage to her, that's got to go. So, I don't even know where that came from, but it's, and my wife thinks I'm a hoarder, and she like guitars, bicycles, like get rid of stuff.
You're a collector.
Yeah.
You're a collector.
Well,
I'm a collector.
Yeah. There's a fine line, right?
There's a fine line.
Yes, it's a tightrope walk between collecting and hoarding. But, people attach these sentimental things and it causes problems. Like, again, back to buying a house or buying whatever. If you get attached to something, you're not going to make a good decision, and there was this study years ago, I think it was through Harvard or one, like sellers always overvalue what they're selling and buyers always undervalue what it is. And most people don't want to negotiate because it's a awkward, tense thing, but I don't care. Like, if I hurt the salesman's feelings because I think his price is too high, well, that's his problem and not my problem. My problem is getting the best product for the best price. And fuck, I don't care, and if you're not making enough commission that your little baby starve, then maybe you should be a better salesman. Like it's not my problem that you're not making enough money and you got to freaking try to squeeze some more out of me because someone is going to buy or sell me what I want at the price that I'm willing to pay. And if not, then, I need to reassess if it's something I really want. So, and I don't know, it's just how my brain works and it's fine. Sometimes my frugality probably gets in the way of things, especially with, my wife would probably like to go somewhere on vacation, but I'm like, I can't afford it. Who's going to watch the dogs? Which is really, a problem for us because, they're a handful. But anyhow, whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, what are we grateful for today, boys?
You want to go first, Crow, or Kyle? Me?
Grateful for family. Right off the bat, it's been a joy because I haven't had a vehicle, Kyle. I have used this opportunity with having family to drive me. My sister in particular, big shout out. She's worked me into her driving schedule. That's what she does for a living. So she's worked me in. And it has been really, really awesome spending every morning with her that I go to work. It is so cool because as we get older, we don't have enough time. And we both have been really just cherishing the moment to converse and just share time, as we get older. And a lot of things changing in my family, got great grandnephews and nieces that are having kids now. So It's really cool. The families is just growing, and it's really, really cool. I'm grateful for you guys. Grateful for you guys to have this connection. Because I keep my world very small, very closed as far as people. And I really enjoy that. And grateful always, always for health. Still working on that vigilantly. Uh, so yeah, those are my gratefuls. I'm very grateful. Today I'm very,
Nice.
very grateful.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Let me think. For me, well, I'm grateful, for you guys as well. My circle. I think as you become more secure in who you are and more tied to the universe, you become less tied to other people. Like
Totally.
the circle becomes very small, and you really start cutting the wheat from the chaff kind of thing. Like I don't need this, and I think of my wife. I mean, the very few people we socialize with, we have zero really interest in ever going out to social kind of events or seeing people from the past or whatever. I mean, it's occasional, it's kind of nice, but so I'm grateful to have this little moment every so often to have interesting conversations. You know, I'm grateful for my dogs. They're just fantastic. Iris is getting old, but I've been working with new supplements, trying to keep her alive longer. And she's a very lumpy little girl. So been trying to figure out how to make those lumps go away. So yesterday I had some carnitine and some turkey tail mushroom show up that I'm adding to her food and hoping to her energy level, get back up. I mean, she's 14, so you know. So that's two. And third, I'm grateful to be able to go mountain biking every week. I should go more often, but it's fun. We got a new guy that's been joining us who is very new to it and thinks we're doing, extreme things, which at our age, none of this is extreme. We ride bikes. 30 years ago, it was extreme, like, going down really rocky fields or jumping across big gaps or, stuff that at this age, you're like, yeah, I'm not willing to crash because it hurts too much. So I'm happy that I'm still able to get out and pedal the bicycle and be out in nature. Because to me, it's just fantastic to be out there. Just the only thing you hear is breathing heavy because I'm in terrible shape. Well, compared to most guys our age, we're probably in better shape, but I always feel like it could be better. And, just seeing the nature, I always get to see one of my gratitude animals pretty much every ride. And now everyone knows that birds of prey are gratitude animals that are on my bike ride. So they point them out for me so I can have that moment of gratitude. So those are my three, pretty just grateful to be alive. And, yeah, things are good.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
I'm grateful. I mean, as you guys were talking, I'm very grateful for you guys and this and like my group of friends that I mean, I'm like you guys. I kind of keep my cards close to my chest a little bit. I got a small circle and I prefer it that way. And yeah, the people that I care about, I really give a shit about, so you guys are two of those. I am grateful. Jessica was, or my wife was she was out of town for the last couple of days visiting her folks, and she just came back today. So I'm grateful to, to see her and spend some time with her. And while she was away, it was just me and the cats, and I'm usually a dog guy, and so I had to warm up to cats, being in a marriage with her. And I got to spend some good quality time with them this week, and just watching them do cat things, which was pretty fucking entertaining, actually. Yeah, they're pretty entertaining creatures. And I am grateful. I'm grateful for I'm grateful for where I live. But I think that like every day when I go to the gym, I live out on like one of the little islands in Savannah, Georgia, and there's a couple of bridges that I have to go across, and there's boats out in the water and like all these kinds of things. And I have this moment, I would say almost every single day, because like as I'm going to the gym or when I'm going to work or something like that, I have this moment where I fully embrace the reality of this situation and like the opportunities that have been given to me. And like the opportunity to live in a place that like I genuinely enjoy, the opportunity to be able to engage and create a projects like, doing the podcast, and I'm trying to come up with like this little men's group on the side, and like the opportunity to, we're thinking about buying a house, just like all these kinds of things that like my life is so much better than I could have imagined it like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. The opportunity to, just have like a lazy Sunday every once in a while, or the opportunity to, I don't know, just meet new people and try new things. Like, I don't know, like I'm just grateful for my life right now. I'm grateful for like everything that like I have. And, a lot of it comes from my sobriety, and I'm not doing stupid shit anymore. And,
Mm-hmm.
when you stop doing stupid shit and you get out of your own way, like good things come to you. At least that's been my experience. So yeah, I'm just grateful for opportunities, grateful for my life. Um, Grateful for what the future has for me,
Yeah.
So,
That's
all right.
awesome.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys for the conversation. Thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. If you haven't checked us out I think we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram at the lighter.minds. Make sure that you're, checking us out, and, share videos, share the podcast, do it, all those kinds of things. It really helps us out. And I'm really hoping next week. We've been trying to get McCrae in here for a while, and we just keep dodging Pat. So hopefully we're gonna have him back on here. I'm planning on next Sunday, but shit happens, and so if shit happens again, then we just roll with the punches. Yeah, but tune into the next episode, and all right, bye.